Dan Beyer.
We are Sports.
The Aggies, the Jazz, the high schools. If it's the sport you care about, we're talking about it. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Happy Thursday to you all. Ajay, Salvesen here on the Full Court Press, 4:01 p.m. Your kickoff time as we start here on a Thursday, January 16th of 2020. Cloudy day, cold. Welcome to Utah in November through February, where it's just ugly. It's just gloomy and it's ugly and it's miserable and you never want to go outside. Alongside me is joining me, of course, as always, it's our Adam the intern. He's here helping us out. And then on the other side of the mic, though, is Ajay Knight. Welcome back, Ajay. Thanks for joining me.
Happy to be back, Ajay, anytime.
We've got a delicious show for you all. We'll get through our press conference starring Gary Anderson, Stacey Collins, Frank Male, and, of course, the newest member of the staff in Bodie Reeder, the new offensive coordinator coming via North Texas. Their press conference was held this morning. We've got audio bites for you galore. We'll share those audio bites with you and break them down as well. Jazz Pelicans tonight, 6 o'clock, pregame at 5:45. We'll have that here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan. And then, of course, Kohn Smith will join us at the top of the hour at 5 o'clock. We'll talk with him about his experience of being under Bobby Knight.
Oh, boy.
Can't wait for the stories. And, of course, his fishing experiences. This guy is a fisherman expertise. Or what's the fancy word for expert?
Math? No, master's not fancy.
Did you say math?
I was going to say master fishing.
No, there's a expository. No, I can't remember. There's a really cool word for like being an expert, and I can't remember what it is.
Fishing Jedi.
No, I just had it, and I don't remember. Anyways, he's an expert and a expository. I'm going to use that word now. In regards of fishing life. And so we're going to break it down with him. He's been fishing with many people, and the stories are awesome. You will not want to miss an interview. That's coming up at 5 o'clock. That will pretty much run us into Jazz pregame. We'll get some Jazz preview in for you, and also some national stories. There's a ton of national stuff going on, including there's a little bit going on in baseball, not a whole lot, not too much. There's a little bit, though.
Someone only losing a job before they actually get to do the job.
Thanks to
Hey, you know how
his
we
niece?
hired you? Just kidding.
Thanks to a family member who's not being claimed as part of the family anymore. Funny how that works, right?
Right.
Let's start here, though. Utah State has announced their new offensive coordinator, and there is staff restructure on the defensive side. Coach Gary Anderson announced on Wednesday that they're hiring Bodie Reeder as the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, while current assistants Stacey Collins and Frank Male will now serve as co-defensive coordinators, meaning that Justin Anna now will fulfill the role as the inside linebackers coach. Boje will continue to remain as the outside linebackers coach. Mark Orphy will remain as the secondary coach. Both of them serve those current roles as they did in the 2019 season. Reeder comes to Utah State after serving as the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach at North Texas in 19 and Eastern Washington in 17 and 18. Reeder also spent 3 seasons as an offensive quality control coach at Oklahoma State, 4 seasons as the OC and quarterbacks coach at Wisconsin Stout. That is not the Big Ten football team. That's Wisconsin Stout, everybody. Reeder also began his
The beer.
collegiate coaching career as a graduate assistant at Eastern Illinois for 2 seasons. Hey, let me ask you something.
Yes, sir.
A resume like this, where he hasn't really coached at one of the, I got to say, premier D1 colleges, right? North Texas. I don't know if I put that there. They were dominating years ago, back in 2004, when Utah State and North Texas were in the Sun Belt, so it's been a while.
Right.
Would you ever say, as a fan of the Aggies, I'm a little bit worried that his resume isn't a little bit more prestigious?
Maybe. I think it's interesting because the Aggies, obviously, with Love leaving and Bright leaving, are a little bit transitioned, so I think there's some opening there to kind of change things up a little bit. I think there were some hiccups there between the offensive coordinator that did leave and then Jordan Love. And so I don't think so. I think football as a whole's kind of trended that way. You've seen it in the NFL, and I think it's only ticking down, that as opposed to looking for the resume, everybody's trying to find that young guy who's got the next great thing. And so it's not really surprising, I think, because I think NFL or football as a whole has gone that way. Everybody wants that young kid who's got the the new wrinkle that makes their offense a little bit different.
That's understandable, and that makes sense as well. By the way, 5231 text in, and you can also text in too at 435-339-0321, 435-339-0321. But 5231 text in and says, "Are you thinking of the word maestro?" Thank you, maestro.
Someone got
He's
your back
the
there.
maestro of fishing. I love it. Good on you for helping me out.
We're a team. See, it's not a one-man show. It's a team effort.
It's a team effort.
Like every other sport.
Yeah, there you go. Let's go ahead and get into some of the press for a bit. We'll start with Coach Gary Anderson, who started off with his opening statement here on the new restructuring of the defensive staff and, of course, the new hiring of Bodie Reeder.
Okay, first, I appreciate Doug throwing this together for us. I thought it was important for everybody to kind of get together and shoot out the questions that we have. You know, we talked after the season of, dissecting ourselves, starting with myself and doing everything we can to make sure that we move in the right direction to continually progress the young men that are in our football program on the field and off the field. And, so we've made some decisions. They're great decisions in my opinion. They're well thought out. And I'll start with Frank and Stacy. Frank and Stacy a year ago on the other side of the ball. I think they'll be the first ones to tell you they're better in their positions they are today because of what they coached last year, being on the other side of the football, being involved in the offense in that setting, in that scenario. I think it's a great opportunity for us to be able to move on. And when you look at it as a whole of the defense. You look at it as a whole of the young men that are coming back within the defensive structure, and I think we're in a great spot. I know they're excited. I know that our kids are excited. And the other important part of that piece is the whole defensive staff is together on this. There's not a bunch of, we don't walk into a room and the room is stressed and it's all tenseful. It's all a tense situation, It's we're in a good place, and it's because I think we've talked it out from the very beginning and we've discussed it. And obviously there's hard decisions that have to be made, but everybody's all in, I would say, and I'll let them take it from there. And with Bodie, it was a long process. Anybody that knows me very well knows that I usually make decisions very quickly, and I don't take a lot of time to think about hires usually. This time I thought it was very important that I did everything I could to take my time, interview for myself as far as interviewing coaches, a large number of coaches, and looking at a bigger group of coaches as we went through that process. And it became very clear that this was the guy to me, what we were looking for. Yes, success everywhere he's been. He's ground himself up through the process of coaching. He's worked like crazy. He's, every time he's gone, he's taken a step forward, a step forward, a step forward, and he's always progressed in a very positive way for him and his family and for his offense or his position that he was coaching, which is great to see. And, as we go through time, he's a grinder, and we're looking for somebody that is a great quarterback teacher, can run a room, can be the general manager of the offense, and is tough. And that's what we've got. So I'm very excited about these three guys, and I'm very excited about the staff as a whole and for our opportunities to be able to move forward. But these guys are all three great leaders, and they can manage the defensive side of the football. They can manage the offensive side of the football at a very, very high level, in my opinion, which in turn allows me to be the head coach that I need to be here at Utah State to help the kids, reach their potential on and off the field. So last thing I'm going to say is I promise you this whole staff is all in on this, and we're ready for the battles that are ahead of us, and excited to get with these kids today in the indoor at 3 o'clock and have a little run.
When you look at Bodie Reeder as the offensive coordinator, one thing that stands out to me, AJ, is the fact that Bodie's offense in 2018 at Eastern Washington set a school record with 623 points scored, and that included 6 games of at least 50 points. Eastern Washington produced at least 600 yards of total offense 5 times that season and set school records with 3,839 rushing yards, which is about 255 average per game, and 41 rushing touchdowns. Yet, when Bodie Reeder was asked about what his offense will look like here at Utah State, there's a little bit of a different feel than what we've seen the last 2 years?
Well, me and Frank have had a great relationship here from the start, and obviously consider.
That's not the bite. Hold on. Stacy, doggone you, dude. You have one job, man. One job, Stacy. Do not answer unless spoken to. Let's try that again. Here we go. This is Bodie Reeder on What the USU Offense, and what he would like to see out of it, what he's seen out of film when he's watched Utah State, and what he wants to see out of the offense coming up in the 2020 football season.
First of all, guys played really, really hard, and that's something that we're going to keep consistent going in future. Like Coach said, is a tough-minded football team that played really well in close football games, and their energy and effort was really high, and that's gonna stay the same. That really stuck out. Obviously, had great quarterback play and have really good skill players and young offensive linemen and tight ends. They're going to continue to grow and progress.
Talk about multiple different types of offenses you want to run. Is speed still the goal? Because that's been the past 2 years here, super quick, fast-moving offense. Is that still the goal, or is it kind of?
I don't think it's our number one goal. I think that we're going to have the ability to go fast, but we're going to dictate the pace of play. We're going to make sure we're playing complementary football and taking care of everyone in the locker room and making sure that we can change speeds.
If I could just add on to that too, I really believe in he wants to go fast. If the first day they walk out, they're going to go fast, which is awesome. But he said it best in the interview to me. And just explain your basketball analogy that you gave me.
Yeah. I was an average high school basketball player, right? So if I was guarding a guy that came from the opening tip going a million miles an hour, my mind and my body sped up to his pace. But if I was going to guard a guy that was constantly changing pace, he was herky-jerky, he was going to shuffle step me, that was tough. So I think that plays in the hands of the offense if they can change the pace of the game.
Your reactions kind of said it best. I accidentally left your mic on.
No, it's just interesting because Reeder said we'll mix it up, which I think it's reasonable. You're not going to go fast all the time, especially with a new QB. But I think it's interesting that Anderson said, no, we're going to go fast. I just like to point out to you, and you know the Aggies way better than I do. You spend a lot of time around the program. I think it's really interesting that a lot of their coaching hires is really shuffling different chairs around, except for Reeder. So for the OC, they brought a new voice in, but everybody else, they kind of moved the same parts around and maybe find something that fits them better.
Well, that's kind of interesting you mentioned that. Collins returns to the defensive side of the ball. Now, he spent the 2019 season working with the running backs. This is his fifth season at Utah State. During the 17 and 18 season, he was actually with the inside linebackers.
Right.
And so he's spent a majority of his time, in fact, of his 22 years of coaching in the college ranks, there's the 4 years as a head coach and 5 more years as a defensive coordinator. Now, for Frank Maile, he's really a majority of defensive minded. He coached the tight ends last year.
Right.
Before that, he was on the defensive side of the ball. And then they moved him back to the defensive side now as a co-defensive coordinator, which I think is really, really big for Utah State, this defense. They got thrashed. We talked about this yesterday, Adam, the intern, and I, how bad it was when they gave up 51 points to Kent State. 51 points to a team that had no right or no business scoring 51 on you. Actually, you know what? All the disrespect to Kent State, but you shouldn't have scored 51 on Utah State. In no way should that have happened. And actually, before we get to that, I want to continue with the style of offense that Reeder was talking about. He kind of goes more specific into what he's been doing so far.
First of all, we want to take advantage of the guys that we have in the room. We want to play to the strengths of our offense. We're going to have multiple tempos and multiple personnels and make sure that we're getting the balls to our playmakers in space and in the correct fashion in which they need to get it. I don't believe in a book or a video type of system of an offense. We're going to make sure that we're multiple and we'll make sure that we have different schemes that can attack the defense from sideline to sideline.
That right there kind of is what really I wanted to take out of it, is to work from sideline to sideline. That's something that Yost was really good at, is spreading the field with his offense. Even if it was going to be a run, just a trap run around the side or a power run to the other side or just a straight up go up the middle of the gut, he always used the whole entire field with his receivers. And then even like when he go 5 spread, he spread the whole entire defense out.
Yeah, well, I think that's a big thing. Like Kyle Shanahan for the 49ers getting a lot of compliments for that because, and it was one of the things that they said the Cowboys really liked about handing the offense over to, who's the OC? I'm blanking on his name, the Boise State quarterback.
Kellen Moore.
Kellen Moore, is that they built in motions into their offense which are really simple, but they can help you get a good read on the defense ahead of time while also opening things up. You motion a running back out of the backfield, and it opens up a middle of the field where the linebacker goes with him. The thing that stood out to me, I really like hearing him say that I want to work with what I have, because I think that is the sign of success. If you're a coach that can take what your strengths are of your players and adapt the system to them, I think you're going to have way more success. And it's also going to allow you to fit year to year what is best for the team, as opposed to saying, this is my system, get these guys, no, this is how we're going to do it.
Yeah, and another thing to that with that, you got to understand when you bring an offense in, you've got new guys learning it now, because Jordan Love is not there, Jordan Nathan's not there, Gerald Bright's not there, Savon Scarver's not there, Siosu Mariner, Caleb Rep. You're asking new guys to learn this offense. I think that's what benefits Reeder the most, is that they're not stuck to one entire offense. It's going to be new for them. And if it's somewhat similar, I think, look, the verbiage, terminology, the hand signals, and all that will be completely different, of course. But I still feel like, though, that Anderson will try to encourage Bodie Reeder to keep it simple.
We'll find out pretty quickly how the team handles it. They do not have an easy 2020 schedule.
No, their schedule's brutal. In fact, I want to get to that with you in just a bit. Here is Coach Reeder on why he decided to choose USU.
Coach Anderson and this program have a great tradition and a great history of success. And talking to people in the profession, there's not a better guy to work for. And I've had some connections on staff, guys that I knew prior, and I knew it was a great group of guys to come in and blend with. When you're outside looking in, a program like this is tough, and they work hard, and they earn every inch that they get, and that's the type of program that I want to be a part of.
That's the type of program he's going to get. And one of the things on the offensive side of the ball that I'm actually most excited about is the QB competition. You got this Josh kid, you got Cooper Legault from Oregon, Orem, and then you've got, of course, Andrew Peasley, who'll be back healthy, and Henry Cullenby, who took the majority of backup reps behind Jordan Love, whether it was in camp, in practice, or at games. And so when I asked this question to Coach, I asked him about the QB competition. He said, look, it's more than just about Henry and Andrew. There's two other quarterbacks who want to compete for position and who think they have a chance.
First of all, when we talk about the competition at any spot, it's all over this team right now, and those kids know that. They competed in the weight room this morning. Those guys are going to compete against each other, and Cooper and Josh aren't going to sit there and say, I don't want to compete either. So they're all going to have an opportunity to battle and compete in those settings. And I really think that this is, I know this is true again from interviewing Bodie as we went through it. There's an opportunity for both those first two young men right now to be a huge part of our offense. There's some unique athletic ability that we have with two of our quarterbacks, and I believe Andrew's one of them, and Cooper is the other one. They're elite athletically as far as quarterbacks goes. And I'm not taking away from Henry and Josh, but if you line them up and run them in a 40, it's going to go the other two guys' ways, whatever, right? So, and the other ones have the intangibles that are different. So my point being that we can use both of those young men as a vicious weapon, And does the offense drastically change one way or the other? That's his staff to be able to, himself and his staff to be able to dissect and figure it out. But yes, there'll be a starting quarterback. There's no doubt. Right now Henry is there because he's got the upper hand, and we go through spring because he's had the reps, and we go through those opportunities. But Andrew's not going to say, I don't want to compete. He's going to compete like crazy, and I think there's a possible niche for both of those kids because they are different. And I just look at it from a defensive standpoint. If I have to deal with, just say it's those two kids in that spot, or there's two athletic guys and two other guys that play different, it's hard for me, right? It's like playing against pace. Then all of a sudden it's a muddle huddle. Then all of a sudden it's a huddle. All of a sudden, those things are very difficult for defenses to prepare for, and you're eating up practice time. That's team concept football, even on Tuesday or Wednesday at practice.
Let me ask you something. Look, Henry and Andrew Peasley have taken the majority of the reps behind center, actually all the reps compared to the other two quarterbacks, behind center in the last 2 years. Does that give them a favorable advantage despite a new offensive coordinator and a new head coach, I guess a new head coach based from 2 years ago to now? Does that give them the advantage over Cooper Legault and Joshua?
I would say initially yes, because I would think so. When you set the depth chart for spring, you'll probably go with the more experienced guys. But with the new offensive coordinator kind of shuffling around on the coaching staff, I think the message should always be, hey, this is a new staff. This is a new system. So experience is a factor, but I think if you get the system or you fit the system better, you're going to go with the player that produces the most. Just because they're experienced doesn't mean they're going to be the best fit for the system or they're going to be the most productive.
How much? I mean, because I look at Henry Columbine, he's got a great arm, he's got great vision, he's got moxie to throw a ball into tight places, which a lot of quarterbacks wouldn't throw to. Andrew Peasley's got the legs and the vision to see gaps, to be able to run through. He's a tough son of a gun. He hardly and rarely, and he needs to start more doing this, but he needs to slide, and he rarely does. In fact, I remember 2 years ago when I think it was San Jose State they were playing, but Andrew runs for a first down, and then two linebackers converge on him, and instead of just getting down and sliding after getting 3 yards past the marker, he just puts his head down and goes head on with him. Matt Wells, and this is almost in an empty stadium in the fourth quarter, Matt Wells comes on the field and is like, "What the bleep are you doing? Get the bleep down!" And we're like, "Oh." Everybody heard that in the stadium. Yeah, but and that's the thing is, you love the quarterback who has the toughness, but you also, I mean, and this is what I think Coach Anderson was referring to, and you can agree or not agree here, but having two quarterbacks who can do two different things very, very well is what can make this team really good offensively.
Yeah, I mean, scouting purposes for sure. I think in college, the game still favors mobile quarterbacks. That doesn't necessarily mean you should take the mobile over the pure pocket passer. I just think it depends on what Reeder's looking for. Because, again, I think experience early on will definitely be a factor, and you'd expect the more experienced players to, have a good grasp on concepts and be able to digest the new playbook quickly. But, again, whoever fits the system, I think, is who you go with. It's not like with Jordan Love, it's not like a ton of people have really seen snaps at the quarterback position the last 2 seasons. So it's not like there's anybody that's had a chance to really show anything outside of practice. So new OC especially, new coaching staff, but new OC this season, new coaching staff obviously last season. I think the message is fresh start. Anybody can impress. This is a new system. We're going to put the best players out there.
Sure. I want to get on to the defensive side of the ball here in just a bit. But my concluding thoughts with this offensive hire is I love it. I think it's a young guy who has some energy, who wants something to prove.
Yeah.
1 year at North Texas, things didn't go entirely great there. He comes to Utah State, and he's got a ton of talent in his pocket. There's a lot more talent than people think that are in this offensive side of the ball.
Right.
If he can use it right with the experience that he has, both in himself and on this team of the roster of players on the offensive side of the ball, they could do some good things. I don't know if they're going to be magical as 2018 football season was, but it could still be pretty gosh dang good. And I think and it's just, you don't want to live up to those expectations or worry about those expectations because it's a brand new start. Really, it is, with brand new quarterback.
Yeah, it is.
New starting running back, a lot of new starting wide receivers.
It's only Gary Anderson's second season this go-around,
yeah,
too.
This go-around. So, yeah, there's a lot more into it. So, and then another thing that's kind of stood out to me, and I actually talked with Adam the intern and someone else about this, is listening to Coach Gary Anderson today, he just seemed more lively. He just seemed really energetic, and maybe I'm looking too much into it. But, I mean, just the way he came in, you could just tell he looked refreshed, and he looked happy to be there, and he was excited, and it's just something I was really grateful to see. That Coach Gary Anderson, it just, the want to be there, and the excitement to get the season going, the spring ball and all that. You could just see it starting to kind of get a niche in him, and that was really refreshing. After seeing him last year, it was really refreshing to see on my end.
Yeah, and I think that's what some staff changes can do for you. I think that new ideas, new energy, especially for Reeder. No offense to him, it's the best job he's taken. Just another one of your point about the excitement about the program. Mountain West was pretty good conference last year in football too. So I know it's not Power 5 experience because you were talking about the experience for Reeder before, but Mountain West was a good conference last year, so I think new ideas, new energy can have that kind of trickle-down effect.
Speaking of which, here's Gary Anderson recapping the 2019 football season.
2019, if I look back at it, and the first thing that I look at it, I've been on the phone all morning with a bunch of people communicating about, Jordan and different people that cover different teams and what have you, and it makes me reflect on that exact same, because that's kind of what they're asking me about Jordan. And I would look at the whole team as a whole and say this was an extremely tough-minded team. 7 games went down to the last wire. They won 5 of them. Had 2 tough defeats, happened to be the first game of the year and the last game of the year. They kind of went down to the wire, and we weren't able to finish in those. But we had some great opportunities where we had to make a run. To get ourselves bowl eligible, we had to make a run to be able to stay in contention to play our last league game. We're right in it to go compete for the championship and have a chance to be able to win our side and go play in the championship game. That didn't happen. So a very tough, mentally tough team. A team that was young and a team that has to become physically more dominant to stand up week in and week out against teams that play with great physicality. And on our side, we have 2 or 3 teams, if you just look back at last year, that play with extreme physicality. And we have to be able to match that. We have a non-conference schedule every single year that's going to force us to match up to extreme physicality depending on how the schedule filters its way out. Next year, we're going to play at least one of those teams. We'll see where the schemes goes with the other teams, but they want to line up and smash you in the mouth and move on to the next game and be very physically dominant. So we have to prepare for that. It's a big push in the off season, and our kids are accepting that role very, very well right now. We put big expectations on them in the strength room, and the kids are handling that at this point. And the other thing I would say is just unbelievable relationships that you get to build every single year. And I've never had a year where I wouldn't say that, because that's the fact of the matter is that's who we are as coaches. We always talk about it. I'm going to hire guys that care about kids first, and I'm going to hire great coaches second. And so in turn, that allows us to be able to have some very special relationships. And there's a lot of faces that we don't get to see every day, but those are still faces that know that we're going to be there for them, and they can reach out to us and communicate. So lastly, I would say we're all blessed to be able to coach what was a great bunch of kids, and they battled their tails off for Aggie Nation.
That team finished 7-6 on the season with a loss to bull loss to Kent State, also losses to Air Force, BYU, and Boise State in blowouts, but did get a significant win over San Diego State, lost to Wake Forest by 3, had to go toe-to-toe in Death Valley in a hot afternoon against the future national champions.
They played with them for about a half.
Yeah, and then, of course, LSU became LSU, flex their muscle. Speaking of LSU, they have just lost their defensive coordinator. Yep. Former defensive coordinator Dave Aranda has left LSU. He will now be the new head coach at Baylor University. That team needs to work on his defense, so maybe he could help.
And the Big 12 is a conference.
The whole entire Big 12 as a whole.
The whole conference needs to work on its defense.
Absolutely. So Dave Aranda has left LSU. He now becomes the head coach at Baylor University. That is per report from Bruce Feldman.
Hey, can I ask you a question about the Aggies?
Yeah.
So where did the 2019 season fall for you? Because you alluded to it. Wake Forest, I think people were really surprised by the loss. Jordan Love didn't play his best in that game, but then they were a top 25 team basically the whole year. LSU, I think most people, even at the beginning of the season, despite coming off 2018, didn't expect that to be a win, and then they were the national champions. But they got into a bowl, but I feel like, was it expectations were too high because of 2018, or was it just that Gary Anderson with these shuffles didn't have necessarily his team quite figured out yet, staffing and personnel-wise?
I think there was a little bit of a shock factor to it. When you have Justin Anna come over to the defensive side of the ball, everyone, because they had a ton of guys coming back defensively, and you thought that defensively this team was going to be dynamite. And instead, they get cooked for 38 by Wake Forest. They get cooked by, for 31 by Air Force. Get blasted by, for 42 points by BYU, and then 51 points to Kent State. You gave up 41 at half to Boise State.
Yeah.
And I think that's where everyone's kind of like, we all said, and in fact, Coach Anderson says it really well, and I'm paraphrasing here, so forgive me. But 7 wins is good. 8 to 9 wins is great. Anything above that is more than you could ever ask for and is a huge blessing. And I agree with that because remember, they lost a ton of talent from that 18 team. You lost Jalen Green, who's now playing for the Rams. You lost a good chunk of O-line. Well, you lost some of your own line, but Quinn Ficklin was he was a starting center for 3 years. You lost a great deal of your defense, including leaders in Gage Ferguson and John Trell Rockemore. You do get David Woodward back, but he plays just over the half of the season before he gets injured and is out for the year. You lost your starting offensive lineman, probably your best offensive lineman, like 5 games in. And so you're makeshifting your offensive line practically the whole entire time. Your receivers are different, including you use a punt/kick returner as a receiver who just really never got in rhythm of being a receiver. You do have the 2 transfers, and so I just think there was a lot of meshing it together, just putting glue on things, and then saying, hey, look, let's just not saying that they were just trying to go through the motions with the season. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
But at some point, you got to say, let's just get through this with our best coaching effort, with our players' best effort, and see where we get to at the end. 7-6 is not what we all thought it would be. But getting to a bowl game, because and everybody's got to, we all kind of forget this, AJ. And back in, I've been an Aggie guy for years, my whole life. I remember vividly 99, 2000, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, where we didn't even sniff 5 wins. If we got 4 wins, we were thrilled. I still remember Riley Nielsen going to Utah State, playing 1 year there, going on a mission, coming back and deciding to go to the dark side called BYU, then going to lead BYU on a comeback rally win over Utah State. I still remember those days, man, and it makes me want to just throw up. And so I look at it now and I say, dude, we've been to what, 8 bowl games in 9 years? This is great. This is incredible. I'll take this, but I want to see valid improvement coming up here in the next couple of years.
No, I wasn't saying one way or the other. That's why I wanted to ask you, because you're more tapped into it to me. Because my experience with the Aggies is obviously much more recent, and so 2018 sticks out a lot more for me, as opposed to you have a much longer memory of it. And so when you come off a season like that, I think it's difficult not to have raised expectations, and I think you detailed well the talent loss, the injuries. Clearly, with the shuffling of the coaching staff this year, I think it's, Coach Gary Anderson didn't necessarily have the guys in their best position. He's still figuring it out, and so that's why I was just curious as to how you kind of graded the season as a whole, coming off of 2018.
Yeah, no, I guess as a whole, I'd say maybe a C+, a C.
Okay.
Because, I knew they were going to lose some games. I didn't think there was going to be the Air Force at BYU, and I thought we were going to be Boise State, to be honest with you. And then if you would have told me that Kent State was going to put 51 points on us, I would have called you an absolute disaster and say you have no idea what you're talking about.
Right.
No way do we give up 51 to Kent State when we have a defense that we have. So I'd say a C.
I'm with you. I think I'm a Purdue fan, and so we're not that great in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And so I'm with you. Six should be the floor. There should be at this point, there should be no reason the Aggies can't make a bowl game at least every year.
Absolutely.
And you build from there.
All right, we're gonna get to some defensive side of the press conference and Coach Male and Coach Collins as they were announced as co-defensive coordinators. No pick 6 today, by the way. We're going to skip that. We have Jazz Pelicans preview. We do need to talk Major League Baseball. There is stuff coming out, and it's coming out in a flurry, like a volcano, and it's a lot, and you got to be able to, we want to intake it all before it, it gets all out there, and maybe if it does ever die off. It's AJ Knight, I'm Ajay Salvesen, and you're listening to the Full Court Press, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
Northern Utah and Southern Idaho's home for sports. It's the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
AJ Knight, Eric Frank.
It's okay. I think I'm much prettier than Eric Franson. But
I know.
Right.
I just said AJ Knight and Eric Franson.
Yeah, that's why I'm running the show by myself. What are you even doing here? I'm kidding. You're much prettier than Eric, too.
Oh, I know. I'm very well aware of this.
It goes you, me, intern Adam, Rod, and then Eric. Newsman Rod.
Gabby, the intern, before Eric.
Oh, yeah, her too. Sorry.
We'll take those two before.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. AJ Knight, Ajay Salvesen here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan. Full Court Press. We're going to get into just a couple of bites because we really do need to talk baseball here. I got to get your thoughts on this craziness that's going on. So we'll get into a little bit of baseball talk. But really quickly again, as we have already talked about and it's already been announced, Stacey Collins and Frank Maile are going to be on the defensive side of the ball, serving as co-defensive coordinators, which means Justin Enna will now serve as the inside linebackers coach. And so Collins starts off here. This is him on being co-defensive coordinators with Frank.
Well, me and Frank have had a great relationship here from the start, and obviously considered through the bowl game last year when Frank was the interim head coach and we had a chance to work on those levels. But it's always been a collaborative effort here, and it always will be. And we have an unbelievable defensive staff. It'll be a collaborative effort, not just with us, but with the whole group. Coach N is one of the finest linebacker coaches in America. We're fired up to have him. Coach Orfe is going to have a bigger role on the back end, and he is a rising star in this business on the back end. And extremely excited to have Ajay, coaching the B-backers, a position he played not only here, but also at the highest level in the NFL. So we'll collaborate with it. We'll put a game plan together with it. And when we hit those game days on Saturdays, there'll be a definitive plan how we're calling it, working it. But it'll always be a collaborative job with an unbelievable staff.
So it's going to be put together, a little bit of everybody putting their hand to the pot and just trying to mix it into a really good recipe. But here is Coach Maile, Coach Anderson, and Coach Collins on what the defense will be like next season.
It's going to look similar to what you saw in 2018. So we're going to be a multiple odd front 3-4 defense is what we're going to be running this with the ability to get into some of the even fronts and with different coverages. So Stacey, anything else to add to that?
We really want to bring the attacking style of defense back. Hard emphasis on the takeaways. We were fortunate in 2018 to lead the nation in takeaways. 3 and outs, get ourselves off the field, get the offense a chance to get back on, change those paces, put the stress on other defenses, TFLs and sacks, and then playing great red zone defense, forcing field goals down there and blocking those field goals. And that's our blueprint, and that's the blueprint we'll stay with, and with the whole overall goal of doing everything we can to help win as a full team, both offense, defense, and special teams.
One thing that we've really been able to do that enables us to become more multiple in that area is what we recruited a year ago. All those young linebackers are now growing and maturing, and you saw some of them get many opportunities, especially after Woody went down last year. You saw some young faces hop in those spots, and Frank and Stacey and the whole defensive staff will do a great job. And those linebackers have great coaching with Justin and with Ajay. They're in a tremendous spot to be able to get better as young players quickly. And like they said, it's very important, and I didn't mention it earlier, but our ability to be able to play as a team defense, team offense, team special teams is so key. And these guys know that, our whole staff knows that, and every week that could change. It's different when you play Air Force as far as a team's concept than maybe when you play whomever the other team is. So matching the scheme is something these guys have done a great job with in a very short period.
AJ, the biggest problem I felt like the defense had wasn't really on their end. It was more on the offensive end when they'd go 3 and out in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And then Air Force would spend 12 minutes running the ball in one possession. And then the offense would go 3 and out in 35 seconds the next time.
Those triple option teams are always tough to prepare for because the games are always so much more physical. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I think the defense had a tougher task because in the 2018 season, they were able to play much more aggressively because the offense scored a ton of points. And it's always easier to play with a lead. And I agree with you. I think defensively last year they tried to play quick, and so when you don't burn up possession time, your defense is just going to get worn down. I'm totally with you. I'm kind of curious, too. I've never really had a chance to talk to too many coaches, but I wonder if those coaches moving from offense back on defense, if it changed their concepts at all. Coaching on that other side gave them some maybe different ideas or something different they saw that will make them much more effective. I would like to think so. But, doing it only one season, maybe they were just kind of out of place and never got comfortable, and now they're back more comfortable, and maybe it was just something they struggled with.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing and I like the word you used, comfortable.
Yeah.
You've got to make sure that these kids are in a position where they are comfortable with what you are running.
Yeah.
As much as it was with the offense not being able to execute and not being able to extend drives and throwing the defense back into the wolves, if you will, exhausted as they were, there were times where I'd see this defense unable to execute simple things like tackling. 3rd and longs, I think Kent State, I can remember like that, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 12, and they gash them on a run for 17, 18 yards. How much of it was them not being comfortable with the defenses that were being called? Does that change this year? How does Coach Collins, how does Coach Miley fix that issue? That was a big issue. And by the way, they lose a ton of talent from that defense last year. They lose Tipanale, David Woodward, DJ Williams. They lose a chunk of guys. Chris Unga, that they're going to have to make up for. They're going to have to make up for the loss of extremely good talent. And then you also got to worry about, putting the idea, like as I already mentioned, that you got to be comfortable with what's being called.
No, I think you're absolutely right, and that's what we kind of heard in Reeder's press conferences. He talked about that or alluded to it. I want to find out what these guys are good at, and we'll figure it out from there. And it's same thing. Any coaching staff, any side of the ball, offense or defense, you want to find what they can do and try and maximize their strengths while hiding their deficiencies.
All right, we're going to take a break. We'll get into more Utah State football tomorrow. Eric Franson will be back in studio with me, and we'll dissect it a little bit more. And talk a little bit more about what we expect out of this new regime, if you will, under Coach Gary Anderson, both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. And, by the way, how is the special teams going to be handled now? All right, we're going to take a break. Coming back, baseball is taking a front seat without a wheel and without brakes. Not a good thing with a moving car. We're going to talk about that. That's all coming up. AJ Knight on that side. I'm Ajay Salvesen here. It's 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
So Full Court Press, Thursday evening, 4:47 your time here as we get you ready to wrap up the first hour. AJ Knight, that side, host of the morning VFX show, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on 94.5, 98.3 VFX with the wonderfully talented McCall Taylor.
Thank you.
Yeah, your name's not McCall, and you're not wonderfully... No, just kidding. I love you. Hey, AJ, in the last day or so of baseball in the MLB...
Oh, it's getting ugly.
All right, there's a gif of Jose Altuve walking to the home plate after the walk-off home run in the ALCS, holding his jersey resurfaced today after the Beltran firing, and now people are speculating he was hiding the buzzers that were allegedly used to steal signs from the opposing team. Also, everyone continues to freak out about the use of buzzers on players' bodies to determine the pitches thrown by the pitcher. Also, a Twitter account that claimed to be Carlos Beltran's niece broke the news about his hiring and subsequent firing. Also broke the news about Altuve using the buzzer, and he has also alleged that Gleyber Torres used a buzzer and stuck it on his leg. Also, finally, icing on the cake, I saw somewhere on Twitter that someone alleged that Mike Trout was using HGH because it got approved by the league and has been using HGH for the past couple of years. In just 72 hours, baseball is breaking Twitter in the worst of ways. Let's start with the Mets firing.
Yeah, Carlos Beltran, we hired you. Oh wait, just kidding. He didn't get to coach anything. I think it's hypocritical because the MLB didn't punish him, and I get he did it as a player. And don't get me wrong, what he did was wrong. I don't think it's fair for the Mets. Also, just real quick, they're still owned by the Wilpons, who made their money in the Madoff scheme. So them firing a guy for quote-unquote cheating is the pot calling the kettle black.
You ever seen The Godfather?
Very, very long time ago in bits and pieces.
Astros, disgraced. Red Sox, disgraced. Altuve, disgraced. Bregman, disgraced. Mike Trout, disgraced. Today, we took care of all the family business. I mean, I just like that's the way you look at it.
It makes me so sad too because like Altuve, how do you not cheer for him? Because he's like 4'8", and he's an MVP candidate and all that. And then you find out about this, you're like, well, I hate you now, so you suck.
Okay, so here's the thing: Mike Trout seems like the most pure baseball player we thought we had left on this planet.
Yeah.
If he is using HGH, this future guaranteed first ballot Hall of Famer, does that tag get removed from him?
I don't know, because it seems like can they prove it? I mean, that's really what it has to be. If it's proven, I would say yes, but I mean probably because it seems like baseball writers are still punishing the confirmed steroid users, even though they're trending up. I think so because I think the big argument with Barry Bonds and with the Rocket was that they were Hall of Famers before they turned to the substances. Mike Trout's still fairly young. I think you might make the argument if it's confirmed, you'd be like, well, maybe he's not as great as everybody thought.
So do you remember who Scott Brocious is? Former Yankees guy, right?
Okay.
Great Yankees player.
Okay.
Then became a third base coach for the Mariners. His son put out on Instagram, my dad was a third base coach for the Mariners in 2017. The Mariners knew they were cheating. Every team did. The MLB did. He knew exactly how they were doing it in 2017. The MLB just wasn't going to do anything about it until the public found out. My dad would give fake, and this he's talking about the Astros here. My dad would give fake signs at third, acting like he knew what the Astros pitcher was going to throw, and Corin Hinch would scream at him, calling it Bush League. Weird how that works. He continues, if you want to read something better, Mike Trout takes HGH for a thyroid condition. It's a loophole he found, and the MLB doesn't make it public because they don't want fans knowing their best players on HGH. But people within know. Thought you'd appreciate since you're a Dodgers fan replying to somebody.
Man, that would be bad for baseball.
That would
not
be
a
horrible.
good week for baseball.
I mean, you want to talk about a black eye. The commissioner's going to be drinking lots of wine for the next, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Just to get through this one. This one is ugly. Now, in regard to the Jose Altuve situation, we all kind of, we alluded just a little bit. But Jose Altuve, when he was jogging after a walk-off home run, the tradition is for the Astros to rip the jersey off the player. Jose Altuve, there's a video of him showing as he's covering up his jersey, do not rip my jersey off. When the announcer asked him about it after the game, he said, oh, I don't know, my wife got mad at me, something like that. Bull.
Bogus.
Absolute bull.
Bogus.
Maybe you had a wire tapped onto you. You didn't want people to see that wire. Ask you about it.
Yeah, that's weak sauce.
Weak
sauce.
I would absolutely agree with you on that one. All right, we got to take a break, but first of all, let's get to this Nate Kregman in This Week in the Mountain West.
This is your Mountain West basketball update with Nate Kregman.
Wyoming and Nevada down to the wire Tuesday night in Reno. 13 seconds to play. Cowboys looking for the upset, but Wolfpack with the basketball.
Harris drives through the lane. Euro step, left-hand shot for the lead is good. Nevada leads 68-67, 8 seconds. Wyoming ball. Maldonado down the center of the floor. Into the attack right side. Floater with the right hand around, no. Tip follow, no. Battle at the rim, Drew's got it. Nevada wins.
John Ramey from Learfield IMG College. Jalen Harris, the game winner, and a game-high 20 points. Nevada 4-2 in conference. Wyoming still winless in league play. Also Tuesday, 7th-ranked San Diego State overcomes a cold outside shooting night to win at Fresno State.
Shoulder shrug, faking the three way outside beyond the arc. And then on that far side of the arc, dribble drive, pull up 17-footer. Malachi Flynn, good!
Ted Leitner on extra 13-60. Flynn 22 points. Aztecs win at 64-55. Still perfect at 18-0, the last unbeaten in the country. Wednesday, Colorado State hits a program record 19 threes to blow out New Mexico.
Pass to Carvacho at the high post. Skip pass to the corner. Catch and shoot three. Thistlewood. Why not? Right down the barrel for Adam Thistlewood.
Brian Roth from Learfield IMG College. CSU wins big 105-72. UNLV 5-1 in Mountain West play. Rebels handle San Jose State Wednesday at the Thomas and Mack.
Knight bangs into Mbake, puts it up no good. And the ball to Donnie Tillman. Tillman, middle of the floor. Donnie needs to get rid of it. He does to Hamilton for the slam. Dunk!
John Sandler on ESPN 1100, 98-87 the final. Bryce Hamilton, 16 points. Your other Wednesday final, Air Force over Boise State, 85-78. Women's Hoops Wednesday, Wyoming 83, Nevada 59. The Cowgirls snap a 3-game losing streak. And that's your Mountain West basketball update. I'm Nate Kregman.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. It's an interesting time for the NCAA and college sports in general. Everything points to players having an opportunity to earn extra money. The public wants it, and thanks to states passing new laws, the NCAA has to act. Enter Odell Beckham Jr. After his former school, LSU, won the national title, he was handing out money to some of the players on the field. At first, the team said it was fake money. Subsequent reports bring that into question. So amidst the Tiger celebration, they now might have to deal with an NCAA investigation. Getting cash from an NFL player on the sideline is certainly an improper benefit. I doubt anyone wants this Beckham incident to blow up. There are plenty other issues to deal with already, but OBJ made sure everyone saw this, and now the NCAA can't ignore it. Maybe one day this kind of thing won't be a problem. Today, it's another headache for an organization that has more than enough on their plate in the coming months. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise.